Railroaded. There's no turning back from Sydney's first private metro. Tunnelling is about to start and the multi-billion-dollar contract for running the trains is about to be awarded. There are two shortlisted consortia, North West Rapid Transit, headed by Hong Kong-based MTR Corporation, and Transform, headed by the multinational Serco. They are bidding for a public-private partnership to supply and operate from Rouse Hill to Chatswood fully imported, automated, single-deck trains, plus the construction and running of new stations, tracks, signals and maintenance yards. The Baird-Berejiklian government says the PPP will be awarded only after rigorous value-for-money assessment. But in Sydney's northwest, we found deep scepticism about the new project in terms of its interconnectivity to existing services, knock-on effects on timetabling and secrecy around safety and access specifications.
Moving, just keep moving.
The existing heavy rail network is a nightmare for wheelchair-bound passengers like Alex Dennis, who's suffered spina bifida since birth. Recently installed lifts are welcome when they work, but there's that damn gap to negotiate between platform and train. It varies all over Sydney and makes the disabled dependent on others. At Blacktown, Alex Dennis is fully reliant on helpers like attendant Rachel Mateo to ensure he gets to work.
Where are you going to today?
Town Hall.
No worries, I'll give him a call.
Thank you very much.
Alex Dennis runs a disability transport blog, and despite repeated lobbying and FOI searches, he can't get any disability specifications out of the government on the coming North West Rail project.
I have asked various different questions about accessibility, what's going to happen, with interchanging, how are people, in the case of an emergency situation, what's going to happen to people in wheelchairs, being manual or electric, and or people with walking crutches or walking frames or the walkers, what's going to happen to them?
This is just one of many frustrations now apparent as North West project leader Rod Staples and state politicians confronted angry passengers this week at a Cheltenham Community Forum.
But rapid transit, high-frequency services, train services with lots of doors were part of...
Speak into the microphone.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but this is the best that the microphone's got.
Top of the complaints list, the rumoured cancellation of direct city circle services from northern suburbs and central coast lines, forcing many commuters to change platforms multiple times.
You said that you are not building the North West Rail link at the cost of existing services. I want to claim that you are building this at the cost of existing services and that you are grossly misleading. That Transport for New South Wales is grossly misleading a lot of the people, if not all of the people, of the North West Sydney.
I appreciate just an opportunity to respond, please. So I think you'll find that there is a little more complexity to the decision-making around the suburban services that we have now.
But there was little real reassurance.
As I said, the details of those future timetables are yet to be finalised, so when those are done.
I wear a suit because I go to the city each day and I have an unbroken trip that allows me to work. On what you're saying and what this government, which is behind it, has forced you to say, is that for an unknown number of years, that under an inconvenience, I'm going to have to change twice.
This is what it's going to look like. Now, what I'm going to ask these people to do is just to stand there for the next 25 minutes.
Public transport advocate Eco Transit's Gavin Gatenby complains that North West Rail's single-deck trains with limited seating will leave passengers standing crammed together for much of the 37-kilometre trip.
There'll be lots of different trips. Yes, some people will travel all the way, but if you want to characterise this as simply everyone getting on and travelling to the city, then you're not understanding the sort of customers that we're trying to carry.
North West Project Director Rod Staples showed us the Bella Vista headworks after his monstering at the public meeting. Huge machines will tunnel for 15 kilometres, but contentiously with a smaller diameter than standard City Rail tunnels.
when you look at the long-term benefit in 20 to 30 years of the different capacity and the frequency and the customer benefits that we'll deliver with that across the wider network. So this is not just about the North West Rail Link, ultimately it is about the benefits to all parts of the network, and people will, I believe, applaud the decision that's been made around this.
Customer amenity? The ABC's fact-checking unit recently found double-deck trains had greater capacity and a marginal advantage over single-deck trains. That's a fact check.
What I do agree with the fact check is that if you put one suburban double-deck train here in Sydney next to one rapid transit train, you can fit some more people on a double-deck train. But as you'd appreciate, Quentin, this is a much more complex thing than just doing a simple comparison like that. Each day the spoiler comes out of the tunnel.
Rod Staples, an experienced civil engineer and professed fan of J.J. Bradfield, who built Sydney's rail system, insists he's enhancing Bradfield's work, not undermining it. Rapid transit means rapid, he says. Up to 30 trains an hour during the peak. That's a train every 2 minutes, with driverless automated services and platform-screened safety doors. But this rapidity can only happen if the single-deck metro, with its faster acceleration, is extended across Sydney Harbour and onto Hurstville, Bankstown and Lidcombe. It's this phase and its massive additional funding requirement which we're now expecting to be a state election issue. There's no risk on patronage for the operator. The government takes all the risk.
We'll certainly be collecting all the revenue and taking the risk around the number of people that use the line. Yes, that is true, Quentin. And as I said, why do we do that? Because there are a number of factors that the government has more influence on and more understanding than the railway operator that's coming in. What we want the operator to be focused on, as I said, is delivering a top quality service and keeping the assets maintained and keeping the service clean.
And I would like to just finish my answer. I am amazed at the discourtesy shown here tonight to the speakers. I'm amazed that the people of Beecroft and Cheltenham would be so rude.
Back at the meeting, local MP Greg Smith told the crowd that despite years of disruptions, the new harbour crossing will make the metro system viable long term.
You have to change, I admit, at the moment. There will be a second harbour crossing. It won't come. Well, obviously, thank you, obviously it will be built. It will be built after this North West Rail Link is complete. There's no doubt about that. And if we go ahead and do certain other infrastructure things, sell certain things, such as the powers and wires, there will be money available to build that second harbour crossing. I predict that that's going to happen, and it's going to happen within the next 10 years.
Patronage projections and specifications for the current PPP remain commercial in confidence. Will the winning bidder get what's called value capture, the commercial exploitation of airspace above the stations for high-rise residential and retail floor space?
Absolutely not. What we've done with this tender process to bring on these world-class operators is to keep them focused on what they do best, which is to deliver a top-quality rail service. And that's where the tender documents are set up to deliver that outcome.
My fear is, I think like many of you, that the North West Rail Link will be a glorified monorail. Very similar to the failed Sydney monorail, which does not integrate, or did not rather integrate, with any of the other transport systems in Sydney.
Success or failure in the North West could prove to be another test of the public's appetite for the privatisation agenda. The most controversial aspect remains the incompatibility with tunnel sizes with current double-deck rolling stock.
The whole reason this tunnel is 40 centimetres too small, the only reason it was dreamed up is to force privatisation.
Most of us here are not against the North West Rail Link in itself. It's the way it's being built and the carriages and things like that. But what I would like to ask is this the beginning of the privatisation of the entire system?
There's talk of privatisation from time to time, but private people have lost on the Lane Cove Tunnel, the Cross City Tunnel and other things, so whether they want to put their money in, I don't know. But it's not the end of the world if it is privately run, as long as they're not going to charge us more.
Significantly, Rod Staples makes a commitment to wheelchair-bound and disabled passengers like Alex Dennis. Rapid transit will be transformative for them, he says.
My commitment is that this will be the best railway that they've ever seen in this country to get access on and off for people that have got limited mobility. I've got a team of designers and we've got a group of contractors who are very passionate about making sure we make this the best customer experience for everyone involved. People here in Sydney, they travel a lot, and you travel on systems in Europe and Asia and in America, and you come home thinking, wow, wouldn't it be great to have something like that here in Australia? That is what we are bringing here to Sydney.